Hey there, this is Pete Buchwald for presentation on audio production composition. In a second, I'll define that what audio production composition means. But in other disciplines such as photography, as they set up a picture, they probably have discussions in their classes about the depth of field, the colors, the light and dark, where the center of focus is in the image, the use of color, subject matter, uh, the story behind what is seen. I'm sure they have a lot of discussions about what goes into that picture, what's inside it, and what is not. And the same probably goes with the culinary arts. Students in the culinary arts invent dishes like this stuffed portobello mushroom. They probably think about the textures, the balance of crisp and the softer textures, the balance of colors visually, the flavors, spicy, salty, sweet, all those different things, and how they come together in all those aspects. In a painting, the same thing would be said. When you sit down to paint, how do you go about composing your piece? What types of principles do you keep in mind? So in audio production, when we have creative power to take this palette in time and space and make some decisions, are there things we can keep in mind, principles, not necessarily right and wrong, but things to try and things to consider as we hear the overall sonic picture and make adjustments? So that would be audio production composition, the different elements that might make up our production. So the band comes in the studio, and perhaps we have some kind of collaborative, creative voice in this project, and these are some things to keep in mind if we have that power. And I would encourage you, if you're going to play any role in production, to keep up with what songs have been successful in the past. Listen closely and consider the things I'm talking about, and form some opinions of your own. Are there some common denominators between these songs that have done so well commercially and changed people's lives in some cases, or made their lives more meaningful, or just provided enjoyment? What's in these songs? What is it about them, and what can we take advantage of, or can we try in our own productions? So follow the top songs in iTunes and Billboard for the genres that you want to be producing, mixing, songwriting in, and keep a listening ear to hear what is going on. If you like it, what is it in the song that makes you like it? I would say that the number one thing that helps sell a song, that makes it engaging and makes people want to possess it and buy it on iTunes or whatever, would be the passion emotion element. That I don't think most people don't listen to music for technical reasons, unless you listen to classical music. It seems like those people, they're very interested in the harmonic progressions and some of the more cerebral things, but there's also the emotive element there. If you listen to a lot of symphonies by the famous composers, there's certainly the passion as well as the intellectual element in those. So passion and emotion just goes a long way in making a strong track, and I would say this is the most important of all of these suggestions I'm pointing out here. Famous, a lot of the hit artists through time have had a lot of charisma, and the way they perform a song, they just sell it. There's a lot of emotion involved, and I'm guessing Elvis and the Beatles and all them, they didn't always feel like getting on stage and singing that song, but you'd never guess by their countenance or the way they performed the song that they were not emotionally engaged. They sold it. The emotional element was always there with people like these. I'll let you watch this video in your own time. If you go to YouTube or download the PowerPoint for this, you can link to the video by Pomplamoose. And this band, when you watch this video, it's just so clear they're having fun. I mean, what conveys, what comes across is fun. I'm influenced on an emotional level to be in a fun state of mind. It's a great example of emotion. And it's not just the visual. If you close your eyes and listen, it still conveys that emotion of having fun. So the second point is, come on, wake up, computer. I say please. There we go. It's hard to go wrong when the song has. Oh, then it wakes up. It's hard to go wrong when the song has a badass groove. So whether that groove comes to the drums or some kind of guitar bass riff, just really jamming out, that just goes a long way toward making the song something exciting that people want to listen to. It would be a fun song to perform live, and it's a fun song to crank up in your car, etc. And if this link worked, it would start playing AC/DC's Back in Black, but I didn't embed it correctly in this PowerPoint, but you know that song probably. Number 3, a strong lead vocal. I mean, a strong lead vocal is going to be, a vocal is probably going to be the loudest thing in your track. For most genres, it's going to be front and center, and it needs to be a strong performance. Have that emotional element we're talking about, but also technical, and the timbre of the voice is important. Not necessarily pitch perfect. Having a personality on that track is equally helpful. So the strong lead vocal is super important. So if you're a songwriter wanting to produce your own songs, sometimes you're going to probably want to hire a professional vocalist to sing your own tracks. I do that frequently for my own tracks, as my voice is not the strongest for some of the types of music I write. So strong lead vocal is super important for our production. Some other stuff we might be able to hide and things like that, but the lead vocal is going to be out in front. Fourth is a balance of bass, transient, and sustaining sounds. Let me talk about what I mean there. Examples of a transient sound. Transient means here and gone. If a person has a very transient lifestyle, it means they tend to migrate, they come and go. So these instruments, very percussive types of things, that they're plucked or struck like the piano keys, and the sound starts and it quickly tapers off. So you don't want to mix with all of these in most cases. I've mixed a lot of church gigs, and I'll show up and there's an acoustic guitar and a mandolin and a piano and a drummer, and even the electric guitar player has some kind of dry thing, and they're doing Jenga type of patterns. And if I'm asked what I think or given the opportunity to give creative input in that situation, I'll try to get the guitar player onto something more sustaining sounding, and if there's a synthesizer, I'll get them away from some kind of piano sound and something more sustaining. So here's the sustaining instruments. I already alluded to a couple of them: distorted guitar, any strings, synth pads, synth strings, synth whatever. Bass buys you a little bit of sustaining elements in your production. Accordion is kind of fun. It could have some sustaining things going on. And one of my favorites is the Hammond organ. The Hammond just has so much personality, yet it's not like a synthesizer in that it has a suggestion of being synthetic. It kind of has an organic feel, even though it is something electric. It just kind of has soul and life, and there's nothing quite like it. Lyrically engaging. If you're in the position to choose songs for the artist, the lyrical element can go a long way toward grabbing the audience and having an interesting track. So all the stuff that you're not supposed to talk about at the dinner table, the sex, the drugs, the politics, the religion, Sometimes those make the best lyrics. So, or the element of story. On the bottom right of the screen is children's musician Raffi, and when he starts talking about stories and involving animals and things like that, the lyrical content is going to engage his audience, and he's probably a millionaire from the CDs he's sold to the families for children. Anyway, so the lyrical content is something that shouldn't be overlooked. The use of his signature lick. Signature lick I've heard in the Nashville studio circles. I'm not sure if they call it the same thing in LA and other towns, New York, but it's the simple melodies at the beginning of a song that might get brought back around after the first chorus and the ending. They're all over the place. Once you start listening to the radio, the as soon as you hear that, you know what the lyric is going to be, what the song is. If you start listening, most every song has a signature lick, and you'd be surprised how often a songwriter comes in my studio and they start wanting to record a song, and they do an introduction with an E minor chord to a C chord to a G to a D, and there's nothing melodic to it. They're just strumma, 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 and it's just so easy to maybe work with them to compose a signature lick, something simple, something maybe on a keyboard on octaves, something pentatonic. Anything along those lines can help bring a song together. It might help your song. Familiar and unexpected. If you think about the songs that kind of appear onto the radio and establish a new artist, often that track, it fits right within the genre, but then they're offering something unique and creative. So, cruising along the road of production, everything's, you need to balance. If you go on a road trip and it's all road, and you're going to go to sleep and it's no fun. But what makes a road trip fun is the crazy stuff you see along the route. And same thing with a song. You need an appropriate balance. You don't want too much crazy stuff, because then it gets overwhelming for the listener. But you have to throw them a bone every once in a while and give them something creative to keep their attention. So as you start thinking of the arrangement and thinking of the creative studio tricks to involve or not, you want to try to find that balance. The human element. When we create music in studios away from sunlight, and we can sometimes lose this human element. And what makes a band fun live and going out is there's that personal interaction. There's interaction with the artist and the crowd, and any humanness you can bring to your recordings. Even simple things like hand claps and backing vocals doing interesting things, and just trying to keep the life in it. And because I think people are turning on the radio because on some level maybe they're feeling lonely. They want connection with humans. Even if it's just a song on the radio, they want to connect with the people and the emotions that are being presented or pitched, if you will, to the listener to engage with. So the human element, try to provide something that where it sounds like people are having fun in the studio, or just that there's life there and not just something very calculated and sterile. All right, and our last element, as a producer, you want to take a few creative risks in the studio. That's what makes it can help take a track from being vanilla into being something more special and more engaging. And sometimes it's not going to work out. That's why it has to be calculated. Sometimes the artist is going to hate your idea. I gave a number of examples in class, and I won't go through them here, but there's been times where the artist goes away and the engineer stays up all night messing with the session, mixing and interjecting their creative idea, presenting it to the artist in the morning. And sometimes they like it and it ends up on the track, on the radio, sometimes maybe not. But I think we owe it to our clients to take a few creative risk in the studio to add our stamp when it's appropriate to the production. Alright, so the composition of our art as producers could involve any of these elements and others. I started thinking about this subject when I sat down to produce my own songs and mix and produce the songs of other people, and it was just so overwhelming, like I didn't know where to start. And so I went back to listening to music, and when I went back to listening to music at that point, I started hearing with new ears. I started hearing what the drums were doing, and what the backing vocals were doing, what kind of weird, quirky synthesizer things were going on in the background. And I'd encourage you to do some of that reverse engineering, reverse audio engineering. Listen to some of the productions that of songs you love, and just kind of absorb it, and so you have some kind of reference point when you sit down to do production on your own. Well, that's about all I got here. I hope this is a helpful lecture for you, and if you're one of my students, I'll see you soon in class.